Hi, guys. Welcome back to the sweet spot. In today's episode, I want to talk about an eating disorder that I had for 11 years and how I shifted my identity to overcome it. Essentially, what happened the other day, I went back and I read some journals. I've been journaling since I was like 8 or 9 years old. And I have all these journals from when I was in college. It literally took me back to that time when I was just so miserable. Like I was just in so much pain, so much inner turmoil. And it was just really, really hard. I was just living the same day on a loop, like Groundhog Day, for like years and years. And just got me thinking about, how I was so stuck in this identity. I remember saying to myself, like, this is just who I am as an excuse, right? Whenever I like knew that I was entering into behaviors that were keeping me stuck, it was literally like, this is just who I am. Just like gave myself a pass, pun it off. It's tomorrow's problem. So I want to talk about that. Looking back, like I wasn't just stuck in that behavior. I was stuck in this belief system that was who I am, right? Like my subconscious thought that's just who we are because that's what it knew. That was the program that I had been teaching it day in and day out. Whenever we have strong emotions paired with thought, and this was like really negative self-talk for me, then it really like deepens those neural connections in your brain. So you keep having the same thoughts day in and day out. You keep having that negative self-talk that perpetuates the behavior. So I was literally stuck in this Groundhog Day for a decade. The reason why this happens is something called rearview mirror syndrome. And this is when your subconscious keeps pulling evidence from the past to predict the future. So instead of living in this like empowered state of your potential, your subconscious is looking to the past to tell it what's possible. So all of your choices get filtered through these limitations, these like old limitations, these old beliefs. And for me, that looked like setting intentions out of fear versus out of possibility. I was not asking like, who do I want to be? What do I want to create? I was asking, how do I not fail again? Right? How do I not keep fucking up? And you can even just like hear the difference in that language, right? One is expansive. One literally kept me so small, so miserable, so out of my power. And so like every day I would think that I was starting fresh. I would have like a terrible night, a terrible day. And then the next day I would like, be laying in bed and I would just be like, oh, tomorrow's going to be better. Tomorrow's going to be better. I'll start tomorrow. But what's happened is you would wake up in the morning and immediately those thoughts just started over again, right? Like I was just reliving that old identity again and again and again. And that identity was built on shame. It was built on control. And it was built literally on survival mode. Like I was in such a state of just survival mode for years that it's so hard to like claw yourself out of that. And living in shame, an eating disorder is literally one of the most shameful experiences. I know I'm not just speaking for myself because I've spoken with so many other women that have experienced eating disorders or disordered eating. And it feels so embarrassing. It feels shameful. It feels like, why can't I control this? Everyone else has a normal relationship with food. Why can't I? And that shame is one of the lowest frequencies on the vibrational scale. When you are constantly in shame, when you're constantly in that state of not feeling good about yourself, it's hard to like climb the ladder out. Literally, it feels like mud. It feels like you were stuck in quicksand, and it is so hard to get out. So if you're going through that, I feel you. And even if this like doesn't apply to you with food, it probably applies like with something else, right? Like you can set new goals, but we always use our past as a reference point. And when the past has been painful, we end up creating that same reality again and again because it's so deeply wired into our subconscious. The average person thinks about 50 to 60,000 thoughts a day, and most of those thoughts are the exact same as yesterday's. Back then, my mind was like a broken record. I literally have journal entries that say, like, this is like a broken record, and I'm so tired of writing this same thing. But what happened whenever I was like writing it again and again, whenever I was going to therapy and talking about it again and again, I kept bringing up those feelings again and again, which just continued to strengthen like the power of those thoughts, of those feelings. So like I would, tell myself always like, oh, this doesn't matter. One more day, tomorrow will be better. And these thoughts, again, like they don't just create feelings, they create your sense of self. They were creating this identity of someone who lives in pain, of someone who didn't feel strong enough, of someone who was just like self-sabotaging all the time. But my mind didn't care, right? Because it was familiar. And to the subconscious, the familiar is safe, even when clearly it's not safe. And I was miserable and hated my life. You can think of it like a neural pathway as like a trail in the woods, right? So like the more you walk the trail, the deeper it gets. I was walking that same trail like day after day after day after day. I was convincing myself that I was moving forward, but I was staying in a loop. I was staying on that same track. I was walking in circles. So again, this might not resonate with you in terms of food, but it might with relationships. If you keep encountering the same type of person, if you keep having the same experiences in your relationships, or it could be like overthinking, it could be holding yourself back from doing things that you know you need to do or that you want to do. It could be perfectionism. Perfectionism is a big one when it comes to this identity, right? Of like, who do I see myself as? That becomes so comfortable. It's like this like cloak that we wear, even when like who we want to be is so different. So how do we get out of this cycle? Through conscious decision making. And I definitely would have told you back then that I was consciously making a decision, right? I would tell you that I was doing that every day. And I thought that I was. But nothing changed, right? So what helped me the most, again, I was like doing so many things, right? I was journaling, I was in therapy, I was on medication, I had personal trainers, I had like people helping me with my nutrition, but the voice in my head was so loud. Like the voice in my head, my self-talk, my negative self-talk, this food noise, really, just like this constant obsession with food, with what I was going to eat, with how I was going to get more food, with what my body looked like. Constant obsession, not being good enough, need to fix it, need to control it. And then the inevitable crash and burn, and then the failure, and then constantly feeling like a failure, constantly feeling like I'm not strong enough, I can't do this, this is just who I am. Like I had to realize that like nothing external was going to save me. Medication wasn't going to save me. A therapist wasn't going to save me. A new meal plan wasn't going to save me. I had to fix what was going on in my brain. And for me, the first thing that helped me so much was meditation, because I could start to see myself as the observer. I could start to see myself as the witness to what was going on, to these thoughts in my head, and start to separate them. So I'm not so identified with this version of me. And again, like that's where we get like our identity, right? It's like, how are we identifying as? Like, who and what are we identifying as? So when I started to like create that separation between that's actually like not me, Like if I'm witnessing and if I'm observing, then like that's not me. That's just like a pattern of behavior, right? And a pattern of behavior can be shifted. I had to shift the program that was running in my brain. I had to shift how my brain was wired for control and for shame and rewire it for safety and for self trust. So I, again, started meditating every day. I drew a fucking line in the sand, you guys. I literally said, I am so miserable. I am so exhausted. It's been 11 years. I am so exhausted. I'm so tired of this. And I am going to commit to myself that this is the last time that I ever go through this like binge and purge cycle. Literally just had to say, like, this is it. And I don't care how fucking uncomfortable it's going to be. And it was wildly uncomfortable, like insanely uncomfortable. It's like I was crawling out of my skin. And also, it took me like at least 2 years for my metabolism to get healthy again. And I think I was like, I don't know if I was afraid of that. I know I was afraid of like just being okay in my body as it was. Like that's what I was fighting because I hated my appearance. I hated the way my body looked. And I had to just say like, okay, like I'm just going to love it exactly as it is while I heal. That was a huge shift that I had to make in my brain, and that I had to like hold myself to that new identity of someone who didn't have an eating disorder, of someone who was in recovery from an eating disorder, of someone who really loved her body exactly as it was. And that was so foreign to me. So every time that the old thought would come in, that would say, like, like, this is hard, this sucks, you've fucked up in the past, it's not going to last, I replaced it with, I'm learning to trust myself now. So the other thing that meditation taught me was living in the present, right? Like really being present in the moment and not constantly looking outside of myself at all the other things that are going on, the past, the future, blah, 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 blah. And just being like, look at the exact moment right in front of me. And what am I teaching myself in this moment? I am creating evidence that I can trust myself. I'm creating evidence that I'm healing. And like that was it, just like step by step by step, repeating that in my head again and again and again and again until I started to form these new neural pathways, until that didn't feel uncomfortable anymore, right? So like your subconscious doesn't care if something is true, it cares if it's repeated, and especially if it's repeated with emotion. So if you keep repeating a new belief long enough, your subconscious begins to believe it and it becomes your new baseline. So this is like really living again, like from the future, from your future self, what's possible for you, and not from the limitations of your past, not from like having like this tint or this color of your failures that are influencing your decisions and your identity in the present. And it's like, if you can envision a new life for yourself, but you're not there yet, it's not because you're not talented. It's not because you don't have it in you. It's not because you're not strong enough. It's truly a lack of imagination and being able to identify as this new person in the moment to moment to moment, day to day to day, without getting swept back into this old identity. And this happens again on this like inner voice level, this subconscious level, this decision that you make to be a different person and to not let all of the shit from the past hold you back anymore. Like, I literally spent 11 years trying to recreate this ideal that I had for myself when I was like 18 years old. And it's like, that's just not how it works. So we stay small and we stay stuck because our minds are loyal to our past self, to this past identity. but your potential does not live in the past. It lives now. It's not even in the future, honestly. It has to be like in the present moment, waiting for you to choose differently, waiting for you to have a different thought, waiting for you to have a different emotion, and waiting for you to do that again and again and again and again until it creates a new identity. So, just to close up here, no matter how long that you have been like repeating the same behaviors that you know aren't serving you, that you know are not in alignment with who you want to become, that's okay. Again, like release any of that shame or regret or disappointment in yourself, because those feelings will keep you stuck. The feelings themselves will prevent you from taking action. So we need to like release those feelings and embrace that you always have a new choice. You always have a new choice, and you can like make that now. You can make that today. And in fact, this is the only time that it can happen, right? Like it can't happen tomorrow. It has to happen now because it's always only now. The life that you want is not waiting for a better version of you. It is waiting for you in this exact moment to show up for yourself, for what you want. It's waiting for you to be braver than your past. And the moment that you stop living from your past, your potential will open up to you. You just choose that again and again and again. Choose expansion, choose change, choose to heal, choose to not be stuck in that that's just who I am mentality, and say, I'm someone different now, today. And just give up that self-sabotage, that limitation. That is what helped me in my journey. And it has now been 11 years. So I struggled with that for 11 years. I am now 11 years on the other side of that. So I am here to tell you, if that's something that you are struggling with now, or if it's not food, if it's with something else, some other aspect of your identity that's just like running on repeat, you absolutely have the power to shift it. And it starts with what's going on inside your mind with that internal self-talk, and with learning how to rewire and reprogram that to be someone else. I will see you guys on the next episode.